Would you look at that? That back wall is new. And with that back wall being new, I'd like to also introduce something new and exciting and totally not something that I just stole from another YouTuber or anything. No, don't worry. June, the month of pride, men's mental health, and headache awareness, I guess. Anyway, it's gonna get another title. Yes, and along with all those other things, June will now be known as Roguelike Month. Please applaud. So I thought we should start this Roguelike Month off with an absolutely explosive start. Transition smoothly into Hades 2 gameplay footage now!
This memory of all you lost, it stokes your want of vengeance even now.
Hades is an absolute masterpiece of a video game. It has incredible characters, absolutely stunning gameplay, the best story I've ever seen in a roguelike, and hands down one of the best games in terms of difficulty scaling. Seriously, it's just right, and if you don't think it is, you can just adjust it in-game and get more rewards. Hades is by far one of the best games I've ever played. So it should come as no surprise that when the beta for Hades 2 dropped, I was on that shit like white on a lab coat. I think this analogy works because there's definitely a little there. Hades 2 takes place a while after the events of the first game, and instead of Hades being the final boss, it's Kronos. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Hades 2 starts off the same as Hades 1. It plops you into the world and gives you a boon. As you progress through the game, however, you'll meet more and more Greek gods. Some gods are new, some gods are returning, some gods are in different places than before, and some gods are MIA at the moment. This game, however, does the unthinkable and starts you off with a wand instead of the knife and sickle that are present in the trailer. This is actually a really smart idea. For most of my hours in Hades 1, I just kinda stuck to the sword. But having the player start off with a stranger weapon mechanically might make them more keen on trying some of the other weirder weapons later on. Speaking of wands, there's now magic, which is a new mechanic. You basically use it to charge up your attacks to do more powerful alternative ones. Unfortunately, this system kinda turns into a little bit of a problem later on, but I'll talk about that when we get there. Eventually on our journey, we bump into the Witch of the Crossroads. This is our teacher and the protagonist's mother figure. She quote-unquote tests us by attempting to beat the shit out of us. This boss is just hard enough to pose a threat, but not too hard to where I've ever died to her. When she's defeated, she goes back to home base and lets you progress to the next area. Now you would think that Supergiant Games would want you to progress to the next area at some point. Well...
Look who! Oh no.
Oh, this bitch Strife. I hate her. And you should too. Whenever the player enters a new biome, this son of a bitch will appear. She puts a debuff on the player that makes them take 20% more damage and it increases by 5% every time they clear an encounter. She only fucks off when you manage to claw your way to the boss area of that specific biome. After that, you won't see her there again. And yes, obviously, this is how I died first.
Return to Shadow now.
When you die, you teleport back to the Crossroads, where you can talk to NPCs, craft things that will make your life easier during your runs, and pet the funny frog. You can also change your weapon and your gathering tool, order stuff from the merchant, grow things, and customize your build with the Arcana card system. See, in Hades 1 you had the Mirror of Night, which let you put darkness points into certain things to increase damage from behind, cast count, rerolls, and just a bunch of other things. The problem was it wasn't very customizable. You basically had two options per level and the second option always seemed to suck. But in Hades 2, we have the Arcana card system, which is extremely customizable. You can unlock these cards with ashes, which is a resource that can be found when you're out and about. And the cards usually give you some sort of a buff. This system works really well and is an overall improvement, but there are some problems with it I'll tackle later. After you're done picking your perks, your weapons, and the thing you'll be collecting shit with, you go back out into the world and try to get down into hell again. It's a roguelike, you're gonna be doing a lot of that. But not all of the places you'll be traversing will have the same things or the same people in them. For example, Erebus is technically where hell starts. This is where the recently dead would wait to be boated off to the main underworld. Wait, I should probably give some more context. You play as Melenoi, the daughter of Hades. After the events of the last game and her being born, the underworld was taken over by Kronos. Yeah, dude wasn't too happy about being torn apart and having his body parts scattered throughout hell. So after pulling himself back together, he took over Tartarus and started waging war on Olympus, which is why the gods can only send you their boons, cause they're kinda busy with their own shit at the moment. Anyway, back to biomes. Erebus is your basic starting area, nothing too dissimilar from the starting area from the first game, except now there's trees. Next is Oceanus, which contains the best NPC, and it also has one of the hardest bosses. Seriously, I could not get past her for like the first 3 times I fought her. I had no idea how the fuck I was gonna beat her. Also, after you beat her and bump into her again, she tells you she has a new song dedicated to you, and that it's called "I'm Going to Claw Out Your Eyes and Drown You to Death." And then she sings it, and it actually goes really hard. After Oceanus, it's the Fields of Mourning, and when they say fields, they goddamn mean fields. Holy shit, this place is big. This is a very unique biome compared to everywhere else. You have 2 to 3 rewards for every room, and minor optional rewards inside of those rooms. In all reality, this place isn't actually that different since you have to individually enter combat for everything anyways, but it's still pretty fun. And the boss for this area is the best one, so no more complaining right now. And the last biome is Tartarus, the first area of the last game, but instead you're kind of taking a sort of back door into it. That's why the area doesn't look anything like it did in the first game. Also, Kronos might have taken some creative liberties. This is probably the worst area of the game, mostly because you don't get anything for progressing towards the boss. You have to take little detours to get those things, and they aren't easy little detours. God, I hate that stupid fucking bag. But once we finally claw our way through Tartarus, we make it to the House of Hades, and finally confront the fuckman himself. Now, if the entire game's difficulty could be put on something like a graph, for example, it may just look something like this. The main difference between Hades 1 and Hades 2 is that in Hades 1, Hades, who is the final boss in that game, and just so happens to be your father, just kinda wants to teach you a lesson. Kronos, on the other hand, wants to break you, both physically and mentally. To give you a good idea about how this fight feels, you know the Sans fight from Undertale and how it's so hard and unfair because Sans is just trying to break the player and make them rage quit so they just leave his world alone? That's kinda how this feels. But after successfully scraping by, and I mean scraping by, killing the fuckman himself, you get a cutscene showing how you were abandoned as a child and just in the nick of time. And then the Olympians are like, oh hey, you should like totally come up here sometime. We're like totally under attack, but we'd love to see you. And so you do. Yeah, so the motherfuckers at Supergiant Games were like, yeah, let's add Hades 3 to Hades 2, why not? So now instead of going down into hell, we have the option to go up into Olympus. And even though this area is not nearly done, it's still incredible. And you also get to kill Eris, the bitch from before that gave you the take more damage fucker debuff. And the only time I've ever done it is when I went big mode. Yeah, Hades 2 has now taught me that if I ever need to kill Strife Incarnate, all I have to do is get extremely girthy. The path to Olympus is super not done yet, but it's also extremely good. And you get access to a bunch of new NPCs while you're up here. And more NPCs equals more really good dialogue, so I'm super alright with it. Now, this is the part of the video where I go over all of the fun and interesting problems that I see in the game. Because no, I can't just be happy. Now, remember, this game is in super early access, so it's very likely that anything I talk about here might be fixed or tweaked within the next year or so. And also remember, I'm just a bumbling fucking idiot that knows basically nothing about game design. First off, magic. Magic is a very good mechanic. Straight up, like, I love its inclusion. But this lady kinda ruins it for me.
Good evening to you, little star. Our cycles now are intertwined, as I no longer can afford merely to watch.
Selene here is the only way in Hades 2 to get access to what is essentially calls from Hades 1. A call was like a big super move you were able to do when you either did or took enough damage to fill up a bar. But it doesn't require damage in Hades 2. It now goes off of how much magic you spend. So if you want to have an effective build, you basically have to have one that goes through magic faster than a high caliber round through the head of the 35th US president. The other problem is that there's only actually one option worth taking, because it's the only one that most people, including myself, are going to be able to kill Kronos with. Also, the Game Rant article that I have up while writing this script is fucking wrong. The problem here is that this makes the game feel a lot less diverse than it is. Like, oh yeah, the amount of interesting builds you can make in this game are absolutely insane. Just make sure it guzzles down magic, you have a lot of magic to spare, you can regain magic fast. Oh, and also always choose the invulnerability call. Boone, whatever. I am not saying, by the way, that all the other calls are bad, far from it. But Darkseid is the only one I'm ever able to beat Kronos with. This is definitely a problem, more so with the Kronos boss fight than anything else though. I'm not one for toning down difficulty in games ever, but maybe not hitting so hard would be a good start. And also maybe him not having a fucking instant kill move would also be good. I understand why he's so hard, because, you know, it took like a bunch of fucking gods to take him down before. But also, this is a game. Insert the difficulty graph again. Okay, moving on to the Arcana card upgrade system. I think this is a massive improvement from the last game, and also I think it could be better. I think an additional column and row would let the player pop off extremely hard. The options we have right now are very solid, but I think there should be just a little more. Also, you don't unlock cards with the same currency as you do when you upgrade them. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with all of my ashes when I'm done unlocking all of these. There should definitely be an upgrade for your pouch that lets you take multiple collecting equipments with you. I know that's technically the companions I think, but it would be nice to have regardless. The aspects of Night UI for your weapons needs to be changed immediately. Having Eris make you take more damage when you enter a new area before you get to the boss fight isn't fun. Just flat up. I get why they want to do it. It's for dialogue and so you don't blow through the game on your first run, and also probably to make the player fucking hate Eris. But it really feels bad when I'm like, oh, I have this really good build going, but it doesn't matter because the enemies can one-shot me in any moment because of how far I've gotten with this curse. I don't know what other possible solutions there could be, And I will admit, it does make the Aeris boss fight a hell of a lot more enjoyable now that the player has a fucking personal vendetta against her. Did I mention I hate her? But I don't think the player should be punished when they finally claw their way into a new biome. And speaking of which, I think the Fields of Mourning should be changed so that you don't actually need to take all the major things that are there before you can leave. So it feels like you have more of a choice. So like the first 2 or 3 rewards that you get could be like normal combats, but then the last one that you do could be the equivalent of like a mini boss or something. And in Tartarus, you should definitely get things for going to the rooms leading to Hades. Fuck. And in Tartarus, you should definitely get things for going to the rooms leading to Kronos, because it's still very hard to do. Maybe they could be like the small optional rewards from the Fields of Mourning, but like, I really don't want to have to fight that aimbot bag again to just get 300 gold and not progress towards Hades, cause he's fucking bullshit. Hi, this is Editor Dudeski. I realized I fucked up on that last bit by saying Hades instead of Kronos, and I didn't even catch it while recording. So I've decided to keep it in because it's funny. Melenui's smile needs to be fixed. I don't know what it is, but it just looks off to me for some reason. It reminds me too much of my high school English teacher. Narcissus needs a model ASAP, and it just needs to be Derek Zoolander. And finally, please make the spell of Greater Girth not affect Melenui's voice, because good God, I could not take her seriously.
You're standing between me and my objective, Aeris. Or floating. The point is, sooner or later, you'll come to understand that's a mistake.
And I'm pretty sure that's all I have to bitch about. Now, in order for you to not think that I just fucking hate this game for whatever reason, I'm gonna praise it for the next few minutes. And after that, I'll probably close the video with some snarky one-liner. I like what they did with most of the returning characters, Aphrodite especially. Not because of somehow they made her even hotter, not because her boons are actually useful now, but because she feels more serious in this game. It feels like they took Athena's personality, which was super serious all the time, and Aphrodite's personality and smashed them together, leaving a combo I really, really like.
A little birdie told me something's happened to the Fates. They're not around to complicate our lives. No wonder my days have become so predictable. Though if Kronos truly is behind this, then perhaps we ought to be concerned.
Everyone else is basically perfect, especially Charon. I like how Artemis just kind of shows up randomly and helps you out from time to time. I think that's cool. I already like the story in this game more than I did in Hades 1, which is a massive compliment because I think Hades 1 is probably the best story a roguelike has ever told. I think it would be really, really cool to play as Zagreus when we free him from whatever dark basement Kronos has him tucked away in right now. Mostly because I want him to absolutely beat the shit out of Kronos for what he did to him. Darren Korb, if you don't want to voice Zagreus for that many lines this time, that's fine. Just keep making your fucking amazing music. Even though I've been complaining about it, the Kronos boss fight is actually extremely fun, and that goes for the rest of the game. It just needs to be a little easier in my opinion. Gameplay is extremely good and fun, combat feels nice, it's a super giant game. Yeah, the sky continues to be blue, what else is new? The new weapons are a lot more hit or miss, but like, when they hit, they hit. Speaking of hitting, holy fuck the music. I know, okay, I get it, it's a super giant game. It was gonna be good, but like, they outdid themselves with Hades. They've outdone themselves again. If we're assuming that this game is going to take roughly the same amount of dev time as Hades 1, then the full game's going to come out in like 2 years. I literally have no fear whatsoever that the full release of Hades 2 will be an absolute masterpiece, topping the first game in almost every conceivable way. Because it's Supergiant Games, and they absolutely crush everything they put out. Also, side note, you can get like all of their games on sale for like $35 whenever there's a Steam sale. It's literally daylight robbery. And if I didn't mention anything in this video that you think I should have, just assumed that I either, like, had no opinion about it, or, you know, I liked it. God, I didn't even mention how you could just take baths with ghosts, but, like, you can just take baths with ghosts if you want. And with that, my Hades 2 video is done. I can't wait to look back on this when the full game is out and realize how poorly it's aged. Anyway, you're probably wondering what that snarky one-liner is that I said I would end the video with.